Yeah, nobody wanted to believe it. And at this point, they're even talking about the gas chambers, and that's brand new by 42.
Yep.
They got the gas chambers. And what's interesting, details reaching Palestine. This is the report that's coming by the Jews living in Israel at the time. It's not Israel yet.
Right.
They're confirming it. And then you've got here Stephen Wise, chairman of the World Jewish Congress, says, yep, what they're confirming now through the government is what we have known as Jews. These are our numbers. So we're talking out now because we have government confirmation of the
One of the
numbers.
guys, I wish I could remember his name, but there is a guy who escaped from Auschwitz. One of the only people to ever escape from Auschwitz. He went in. I believe he was sent in. I believe he volunteered and said, I have to see it myself and have proof. He went in, escaped in a harrowing mission, got out, went to Switzerland, grabbed the American ambassador.
Yeah.
The American ambassador believed, went over to England, told everybody in England they didn't believe, went to FDR. He wouldn't even take the meeting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And this information sat for about 18 months with the administration saying, I don't care.
FDR said it'll demoralize our people if they find out what's going on. And his thing was, we're not going to say anything about it. We know what's going on. We're not going to do it because we don't want our soldiers being demoralized while they're there. We want to fight with great courage and conviction. And so his thing was, we're not going to talk about it. And they just set on it.
Morgenthau thought that there was more to it than that.
And there
it
probably was.
And I think so. And Wise, I believe, actually went to Morgenthau and finally said, you have got to stop this. And Morgenthau did.
This guy right here, they talk about well-known Polish writer Janusz Korczak. Mm-hmm. Janusz Korczak, interesting story with this guy. He ran an orphanage, and the orphanage he was running had 192 kids in it. And they were in the ghetto, and the Germans said, your kids, it's time for them to go to the extermination camps. So he dressed his kids up in their best Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, if you will, except they were Jewish kids, so Saturday go-to-meeting. He had them do baskets, and he made a real joyous thing. They're going to that. They don't know that. He knows that. And he's written 20 books for kids. And when they get there to the gas chambers, he talks about how they're going to have a wonderful time to get. He didn't want to be terrified, and so the Germans looked at him and said, "Oh, you're the famous author. You can go." He said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm going with the kids." And he went in there with the kids, keeping them cheerful all the time, right through the death. So he was martyred literally as a result. But we're reprinting some of his kids' books. He's got a great book on Christians and Jews back at the beginning of this thing, and so Korczak is a children's author,
Polish writer, whom the Germans allowed to stay behind.
He's also Jewish.
Ghetto, and preferred to follow his charges to death. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, David, Harper's Weekly, that was kind of like Life magazine, which most people don't remember Life, but it was...
And Post before that?
Yeah, it brought pictures. And so it was like TMZ in its day, just brought the story to life through pictures.
Well, here's the difference. I mean, if you have a newspaper like this, or you have a newspaper like this, what are you going to go to?
I'm going to read that one.
Every time. You go to this one. And the illustrators, Thomas Nast was one of the most famous of their illustrators.
Gave us Santa Claus.
Gave us Santa Claus. He also gave us something else. Tim, you want to take this one?
Well, this is the first time that the Republican elephant and the Democrat donkey ever appeared in an image together. They had both been around a little bit before that, which actually, the donkey is kind of my favorite part. Do you know when the donkey became the symbol for the Democrats? Any guess?
Stubborn. I would say it would be around the time of the Civil War.
Well, it was actually Andrew Jackson, but they didn't call it a donkey.
The biblical term for donkey is?
Dumb old ass.
Thank you.
His opponents running against him said, we can't elect this dumb old ass. Jackson thought it was brilliant, so he embraced it and ran with it. And the Democrats, to this day, have embraced and run with the fact that they're dumb old asses. I think that's ironic.
And look, the donkey and the Republican.
Now, you know what?
It looks just the same. It's just a worn out.
But you know where it came from is if you were a soldier in the Civil War, and if you have seen battle action, you're not just trained, you've seen battle action. They called seeing the elephant. I've been face to face with the big stuff right in my face. I've seen danger up close. And so they call seeing the elephant, and that's where they started using the elephant as a symbol of Republican stuff.
So if even the elephant is an anti-slavery thing.
Yes.
How can we as conservatives, how could we let that go by?
This is why you study history.
Oh,
we
my
used to do this in
gosh.
America. We used to actually study history, but that's the first time they're both together. And so that's not, but the fact that Jackson embraced that. And
Yeah.
Well,
I love it.
Can I tell you something? We know who Jackson was. Jackson was a mass killer.
Yeah.
A bad guy, totally changed the republic, flipped everything upside, corrupt, nasty. It's who Donald Trump is openly saying, that's who I want to be. I'm modeling my administration after Jackson.
Wow.
How do
Wow.
What are you thinking, man? It's like Jackson.
he's
I
thinking-
like the dumb old ass.
He's probably thinking what every other kid who sees that is they don't have a clue what it means.
Yeah.
And they don't, we do not teach American history anymore, even to history majors. My gosh.
Yeah.
So nobody knows what that means, but that's the first time that you have the two of them appearing together in a Thomas Nast cartoon. There's also, here on the face of this one, you see
General
Ulysses S. Grant. And so Ulysses S. Grant is finishing his term as president. And by the way,
Being awarded by Columbia something for service.
What he did in the Civil War, etc. Now, this is a newspaper from 1876. This is as he's going out of office.
Okay.
So he's on his way out of office, and as he goes out of office, he actually writes this letter, which is fairly interesting.
Is it in here?
It is in there, but we're not going to open it.
Yeah.
This is his statement. He said, "My advice to Sunday schools, no matter what their denomination is, hold fast to the Bible as the sheet anchor of your liberties. Write its precepts in your hearts and practice them in your lives. To the influence of this book, we're indebted for all the progress made in true civilization, and to this we must look as our guide in the future. Righteousness exalts a nation, sins a reproach to any people. Yours respectfully, U.S. Grant."
Wow.
And so that's the deal again of, we want every single American to read the Bible. This is where our civilization comes from. This is how you avoid the atrocities of Europe. That's what we emphasized.
We were producing a week special for radio on Calvin Coolidge. He is the most remarkable president of the 20th century. I mean, he is probably the best president we had. And Reagan used to always talk about Calvin Coolidge, and once you know Calvin Coolidge, you know why. I mean, he was remarkable in every way.
He was.
This is a letter from him?
This is a letter from him, and the quote on this is just, it's killer. Read that quote.
"The destiny, the greatness of America lies around the hearthstone," the fireplace. "If thrift and industry are taught there, and the example of self-sacrifice oft appears, if honor abide there and high ideals, if there the building of fortune be subordinate to the building of character, America will live in security, rejoicing in an abundant prosperity and good government at home and in peace, respect and confidence abroad. If these virtues be absent there, there is no power that can supply these blessings. Look well then to the hearthstone, therein all hope for America lies." Wow.
That's how you gather the family around the fireplace, and you have those family times together. And if you have that and emphasize character, emphasize the right priorities, America's safe.
Well, he grew up in a time, when he took the oath of office, he was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning. He was at his dad's house up in, where was it? New Hampshire? Or
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
I think. Massachusetts, yeah.
And they didn't even have electricity or anything, so they woke him up. Somebody had to come from the telegraph office, wherever it was, and said, "Harding is dead, and you're the president." And so his dad swore him in. He was a judge.
that's
His
right.
dad swore him
Swore him
in
in.
the kitchen.
Yep.
And when he finished, he said, "Well, nothing much we can do now. I'm going back to bed." And he went back to bed because there were no phones. There was not. I mean, it was a different time. This is a time when you would gather around and
The
read
hearthstone.
to each other around the fireplace at night.